Hello and welcome to Elite Dangerous Survivor. My name is Nathaniel Page and this is the fifth of my video diaries about the Survivor gamebook. Before I start, I'd just like to give a big thank you for all the pledges so far. In the last of my video diaries, we'd only just gone past 25% of the Kickstarter goal. Well, the great news is, just 2 days later, we're already past 40%. So if we can keep that pace up, we're definitely going to get this project funded. Okay, in today's update, I thought you might be interested to see some software that I've written. I wrote this about 14 years ago for helping write game books, specifically how to keep track of which sections, which page numbers I've already written, which I've already allocated from the narrative so far, and which ones I still need to do. So if you wanted more information about the Survivor gamebook itself, my apologies, there's not going to be any of that in today's update, but hopefully you'll find this quite interesting instead. Now, as a quick reminder, there's a difference between a novel and a gamebook. When you read a novel, you start on page 1, turn to page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. You might write it in the same way, so you might write it in that linear fashion. Game books don't work like that. So this is an extract from Forest of Dreams. At the top we've got page 1. At the end of page 1 you've got two options as the player. The first option is to here reach out and try to catch the keys. If you want to do that, you need to turn to page 235. But alternatively, if you want to do the second option, you're going to turn to page 347. So you're not turning to page 2, you're turning to something much further on in the book itself. So let's say we want to do the first option, we want to reach out and try to catch the keys. In this case we're going to turn to page 235. Page 235 gets more complicated again, so there's a bit more narrative. There's two more options at the end, one of which will take us to page 292 and the other will take us all the way back to 116. So it's kind of jumping around a bit, and if you're not careful when you're writing that, you're going to lose track of which sections you need to turn to next. And if you lose track of which sections you need to turn to, you lose track of what you've written, which sections you've allocated. You might forget to write a section altogether, you might write a section twice. And if that happens, the player's going to get very confused. There's basically going to be a sort of a bug in the game book. I need to avoid that for Survivor, and in order to avoid that, I'm going to take you through the software which I've written, which is going to help me control it and keep track of all that numbers and pages and references and stuff that goes on when I'm writing the game book. So, what does the software look like? The software is written in Excel. It's not particularly clever, but it manages the section numbers, and this is the main part of it, and then also automatically maps what's going on for me. So let's start by just explaining very, very quickly how this works. At the top, I've got two numbers that keep track of the total number of sections that I've written and the total number of sections that I've referenced. So when that reaches 600, I've finished. When this number starts approaching 100, 200, 300, that's an indication of how much of the game book has already been allocated, so how much space I've got left to create new stuff. On the left hand side I've got a list of all the page numbers, so this will be 1 all the way down to 600, and then I have something called a location. Locations are very important to me when trying to visualize how a game book works, and a location refers to a physical location in the game. So one of those locations is probably going to be something like Lave space 1, so something happens when you're in space around Lave at a location called 1. Second location might be Lave space 2, Lave space 3, I can't spell that, and then Lave station. So there's going to be lots of locations, physical locations in the game book, and then attached to each of those locations there's going to be stuff that happens. So you might decide to attack the pirate, you might decide to run away from him, you might decide to try to talk to him, you might decide to ram him, and so on. So all those things happen, but they happen at a physical location. If I just get rid of those very quickly and go to the map at the moment is empty because I've just deleted the physical locations, nothing exists there. But as soon as I create my first location, I'll put it back in now, Lave space 1. The map of the game creates two things. The first thing it creates is a blue blob, which represents the location, and the second is a red blob that comes off it, which is stuff that I need to write, which has been allocated in paragraph 1, but hasn't yet been written. If I just put these back in again, so Lave station, Dezo, doesn't really matter. Every time I add a new location in here, it's going to create a new blob on my map, and then it's going to start populating the different paragraph numbers attached to each of those blobs. It all happens automatically, so it really does make it much easier to keep track of what's going on. But let's see how it works. We'll just get rid of those two for now. Section 1. At the end of section 1, let's say you have 3 choices. Those choices are going to take you to sections of the book very far on, but just so I can show you on screen, I'll make it a bit easier and say option 1 will take you to section 2, option 2 will take you to section 3, and option 3 will take you to section 4. If I now quickly look at the map that I've written, it looks the same as it was before, so you've got a red blob attached to the blue blob. As soon as I've done that, we'll say that that section has now been written, so that red blob's going to go away, and then each of those options 2, 3 and 4 for now I'll say all happen in the same physical place. So all of those first 4 paragraphs happen at lave space 1. If I now look at the map's now completely changed. So the map now shows I've got a green blob which says I've written that, and then 3 red blobs saying there's 3 more things that happen at this physical location, but I haven't yet written those. And you can see that the more red there is in the map, the more I know I've allocated, but not yet written. So if I want to complete the game book, I need to make sure all the red goes away, and if there's a red blob and I need to know where it is, I can go to the physical location that it's attached to. So it really, this approach really does help make sure that nothing is missed out or nothing is replicated that I've already covered. Let's just expand it a bit further. So in section 2 you've got 3 options which take you to 3 and 4. Section 3 you've only got 1 option. I'm just making this up as I go along, which takes you to section 4. Everything that you do so far, whatever you do, you're going to end up at section, so page number 4. And page number 4 will take you to a new physical location 5. I'll just continue this a little bit further. And then finally we're going to have a third location which is going to be Lave Station. So if you imagine what that looks like, you've hyperspaced into the Lave system. You started off at space 1 where some stuff happened, then you moved on to space 2. Perhaps in space 2 you met a pirate where a fight happened or something like that. Having done that fight with the pirate, you then got to Lave Station itself. Let's just fill this in quickly. So I'm just making this up as I go along, and then we'll say that we've written those sections all the way down to there. So we've got 3 physical locations, space 1, space 2 and the station itself. We've written all those sections. What does the map look like? Well, the map's starting to look rather healthier. The first 2 physical locations have been completely finished, it's all gone green, and then the third location has only got 1 red blob on it that still needs to be written. We'll just put 1 more in location, so it's a bit unrealistic, but this suggests that after you finish your business at Lave, you can then go to Dezo. So there's a 4th blob that's just appeared there. This is a great start, but what this doesn't show me is how you can travel from one system to another, or one physical location to another. So you'll notice that there's a slight curve on there. This is just to help with plotting. In addition to managing each of the different sections, I have something called locations management, which automatically populates itself with the locations that you put in here. Just get rid of Dezo for a moment. You see it's vanished. Put Dezo back. And here, this tells you you need to control this, or the author needs to control this, to say that it's possible to go from space 1 to space 2. You can go from space 2 to the station, and this is unrealistic, so ignore this for now, but you can go from Lave Station to Dezo. All the locations, physical locations of the game are contained within this sheet. All the sections in the game are contained within this sheet, and as long as you populate all of that, you end up with a map that looks something like this. So the black lines tell you which physical locations you can go between. The green blobs telling you what you've written, the red blobs telling you what you still need to write. Let's just put a black blob across there. So we'll say that you can go from Lave Space 1 straight to Dezo. And now it fills it in there. So you can see that the software is automatically mapping everything for me as I go along. As the player, ultimately you'll have to do your own map, not necessarily looking like this, but you'll find it very, very helpful if you do that. And well, I guess that's starting to look a bit like a Cobra Mark III if I continued. Anyway, that's how my software works. By the time I finish Survivor, the map will look very, very complicated. There'll be black blobs and blue blobs and greens and yellows all over the place, but it's something which I found very, very helpful for making sure, hopefully, that there's no bugs in the final game book. Anyway, hopefully that was of interest. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the comments section on the Kickstarter. But other than that, look forward to seeing what we can do over the next 2 days. Goodbye for now.